explain the results that he was seeing. But what would the international scientific community make of these findings?
So what conclusion can we draw from all of this? Well, there is no doubt that the work of Ray Rogers, which, by the way, isn't just published in a TV documentary or a website or a magazine or some commercial book, Ray Rogers submitted his research on this anomalous sample to one of the finest chemistry journals in all of the world, a journal named Thermochemica Acta. And they spent 7 months reviewing his work, making him make changes, going back and making him redo certain parts of his experimentation, furthering his documentation of what he'd found, and after 7 months, his paper was published in January of 2005. So we now have the first piece of peer-reviewed scientific evidence that's appeared in a refereed scientific journal, proving that the sample used in 1988 for the radiocarbon dating of the Shroud was in fact anomalous, did not represent the main body of the Shroud cloth, and consequently the Shroud of Turin itself was not dated, but only this repaired corner was dated, which was obviously a synthesis of both old and new threads, yielding the medieval date that was concluded by the 1988 radiocarbon dating. So that test, if we just look purely at the science, forget about all the other commercial aspects and the bloggers and the pundits, looking solely at the science, this is the first conclusive evidence in the refereed science that indicates the Shroud of Turin itself was not dated, but a repair was. Now, there are many people who disagree with this, and they'll continue to disagree, and my answer to that is simply this: that if somebody finds something wrong in what Ray did, Ray Rogers himself would have been the first to say, publish it, get it into the literature, and I'll change my mind, as he had done on more than one occasion in the world of the Shroud. As new evidence came in, Rogers was flexible and was willing to accept that his original opinions or conclusions might have been wrong, and was willing to change as the evidence showed otherwise. That's what I call real science. I've been privileged to be a part of that, and that's why I firmly believe that the radiocarbon dating of the Shroud of Turin in 1988 did not, in fact, date the actual Shroud, but dated this repaired corner.
Real science performed by the Shroud of Turin research team in 1978 and continued by the likes of Barry Schwartz and Ray Rogers indicates that not only is the Shroud not a fake, but also that the main piece of evidence against it, the radiocarbon dating, is significantly flawed as to be practically useless. As Barry says, the scientists found that the Shroud was not a medieval painting, not a forgery, a hoax, a photograph, rubbing, etching, dust painting, or any of the other possibilities suggested by the doubters. Yet there were still doubters. If only we had some other piece of evidence to corroborate the story of the Shroud. What many people don't realise is that we do. Fiercely protected behind lock and key at the Cathedral of San Salvador in Oviedo, Spain, sits a great wooden ark. The metal front, fashioned in distinctly Roman style, shows the image of a man on what appears to be a throne, surrounded by 12 other figures. Legend has it that this chest was kept secretly in a cave near a monastery in Jerusalem until the 7th century.
Early on Sunday morning, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been taken away from the entrance. she went running to Simon Peter and the other disciple whom Jesus loved.
They have taken the Lord from the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him.
Then Peter and the other disciple went to the tomb. The two of them were running, but the other disciple ran faster than Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent over and saw the linen cloths, but he did not go in. Behind him came Simon Peter, and he went straight into the tomb. He saw the linen cloths lying there, and the cloth which had been around Jesus' head. It was not lying with the linen cloths, but was rolled up by itself. Then the other disciple who had reached the tomb first also went in. He saw and believed.
When Persian invaders forced the monks to flee, taking the ark with them to Spain. They risked their lives to keep the box safe because of what it contains. Inside the Roman ark at the cathedral in Oviedo is a piece of cloth known as the Sedium of Oviedo. Sedium means shroud. It is said to be the cloth that was wrapped around Jesus' head when he was buried, as described in the Gospel of John. Blood tests conducted on the Sedium and the Shroud of Turin prove that both are of the same blood type, AB, a rare blood type amongst medieval Europeans but common in the Middle East. What's more, pollen samples taken from both cloths place them both in the Palestine area, and textile experts have confirmed that the Sedium is made from the same fabric as the Shroud. Are the Shroud and the Sedium really linked? Look and ye shall find, said Jesus. There would seem to be no doubt that both the Shroud of Turin and the Sedium of Oviedo both covered the same man. A man of Middle Eastern origin who was scourged and whipped, nailed to a cross, crowned with thorns, and pierced with a spear.
It is finished. Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit.
So the scientists found that the Shroud of Turin was not a fake, not a hoax, not a painting or a photograph, or any of the other things that the doubters claimed. And Ray Rogers found that the radiocarbon dating, the only scientific test to cast real doubts on the authenticity of the Shroud, was fatally flawed. The blood stains on both the Shroud and the Sedium matched the description of the events in the Gospels. Now, having seen everything we have seen, let us consider again our friend Thomas.
One of the 12 disciples, Thomas, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord."
unless I see the scars of the nails in his hands, and put my finger on those scars, and my hand in his side, I will not believe. Unless I see the scars of the nails in his hand, and put my finger on those scars, and my hand in his side, I will not believe.
Surely the modern-day doubting Thomases would have to agree that they have now seen solid evidence of these things. Yet many of them will still not believe. And somehow we know that many of them never will. Why not? Well, the Gospels have something to say on the matter.
That's how the judgment works. The light has come into the world, but people love the darkness rather than the light, because their deeds are evil. Those who do evil things hate the light and will not come to the light, because they do not want their evil deed to be shown up. But those who do what is true come to the light, in order that the light may show that what they did was in obedience to God.
Some people will never accept the truth because they are afraid. Maybe there is nothing we can do about that except to plead with them to keep their eyes open, for when their eyes are open they may truly see, and the truth may come to them. Which leads us to one final incredible piece of the scientific puzzle. The VP8 image analyzer is a computer that scientists use to take topographical maps of the moon and other things. It analyses light and dark areas of an image to determine the three-dimensional qualities of the object in the image. So, for example, it can tell us how deep the craters are on the moon. The VP8 analyzer needs photographs to be taken in a particular way in order to be accurate. A normal photograph fed into the machine will just display a jumbled mess of light and dark patches, because the light and dark areas of a regular photograph have little to do with how far away the subject is. Well, just out of curiosity, a group of scientists at the Los Alamos National Laboratories fed a photograph of the Shroud through a VP8 image analyzer. This is what they saw. The topographical image of the Shroud created by the VP8 computer shows very clearly the image of a man in 3 dimensions. The image is darker where his body would have touched the cloth directly, like his nose, and fainter where it would have been further away, like his neck. In fact, the VP8 map of the Shroud shows the image of the man more clearly than ever before, and in doing so proves once and for all that the Shroud of Turin can not possibly have been made using photographic methods. In fact, this discovery convinced the scientists at Los Alamos that the image on the Shroud must have been formed by the cloth being draped over a real human being. The Shroud of Turin is a truly unique artefact, a 3-dimensional image on a 2-dimensional piece of cloth. This in itself is something of a miracle. It suggests that the image on the Shroud was intended to be viewed as more than just a picture. It suggests that the Shroud itself is trying to say something to those willing to look hard enough. But what? Renowned Christian scholar and medical doctor Richard Kent has some thoughts on the matter.
Jesus said, "The knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of God has been given to you. But to others I speak in parables, so that though seeing, they may not see, though hearing, they may not understand." Could the Shroud of Turin be a parable for modern times, a physical manifestation of Jesus' promise that those who seek shall find,